Welcome to Superhero Rundown. I'm Jess, and this is my best friend Lizzie, and we are going to talk trash about Infinity War. I did
Shall
not
we get ready?
Yeah, I definitely didn't script this, so this is going to be a lot of stream of consciousness. Well, okay, obviously spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie by now,
just turn the channel on. Just
go to a different video. It's fine.
Go away.
All right, so where should we start?
Shall we start at the beginning?
Oh God, why? Okay, to understand why we did, well, I don't know how you feel about it in terms of like, if you actually don't like it as much as I don't like it.
I like it from a cinematic standpoint.
Okay, I can construe, okay, let's talk positives first and then we'll go into the shenanigans. Positives. Thor Rocket is my bro TP. Forever. Because it was just, every time they were on screen, it was the best.
Ultimate Triforce.
Basically, though. I really liked, the chemistry of all the characters was great. You know, Spider-Man teaming up with Doctor Strange and Iron Man was great.
They did a good job personifying everybody in terms of what their characters were supposed to be and how they work together.
Right.
So, and I appreciated that Spider-Man line at the end. It was very Peter Parker. It was very Peter Parker.
I also will say that this was a beautiful movie to look at in terms of they really looked like they took their time with the CGI this time as opposed to what they did in other movies.
Few blips, but
not as bad as not as bad as other movies. Well, I can't really talk about the plot because that's part of my problem. All right, I guess that's all the positives, right? Is that it?
That's really unfortunate, but
God, that sucks. Okay, let's talk Thanos. Let's start with our villain, and then we'll get... Okay, so...
I'm sorry, he's a villain?
My point. So, alright, let's backtrack a little bit. The movie that came out before this was Black Panther. Now, I know a lot of people have said, you know, Black Panther is literally just a political thriller with superhero elements, which is fine, because that's literally what it is, and it's probably one of the better MCU movies anyway. But the reason it works is because we see Killmonger's backstory, we understand his motivations, we understand where he's coming from, and... Shut up. And the other thing that we understand is that when he actually changes Black Panther's mind, that's, like, Killmonger set out a goal to, you know, conquer the world, basically, and, you know, get rid of white people, I guess. I'm not really sure about that. But he honestly was one of the only villains who has ever changed the hero's mind to the point where, you know, T'Challa opened Wakanda to the world. So, in essence, I think that Killmonger was a better villain because we understood all of that. Okay. By the way, there's a puppy, so if you hear panting or any of that, that's a puppy.
If you hear whining or I stop paying attention, it's her.
Yeah, it's a puppy. It's fine. So, let's talk about Thanos. Hi, puppy. This is the puppy.
Hi, puppy.
This is the puppy. I love this
is my
puppy.
baby.
Hi there.
Because everyone appreciates the dog.
Yeah.
Alright.
So, yeah, so that's Killmonger's thing. What really annoyed me about Thanos is that they did a lot of tell, don't show.
They didn't even tell, though.
That's fair.
Because, like, okay, let's go back one movie before, you know, Black Panther and Wakanda. Look at Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
Who's the main villain in Thor Ragnarok?
Hela.
Okay.
Well, and Surtur.
What do we know about Hela?
She was Odin's firstborn. And she was his executioner, and she and Odin had conquered most of the known Yggdrasil. Like, we know all that.
We know a lot about her. We know why she's there now. We know why she wants to take over Asgard. We know everything about her reason for being there and why she doesn't like Thor and why she and Thor are fighting.
Yeah.
How much of that do we know about Thanos?
We know that Thanos is from Titan. And he adopted Gamora. Oh, and he wants 6 magical rocks to wipe out half the universe. That's it, though. That's really it. I thought he was going to wipe out the world because at the very end of Avengers, the other tells him, you know, to play with Earth is to court death. And death is an entity in the Marvel Universe, so I assumed that the whole reason he was doing it was to, you know, get his sex on. I'm just saying. But I understand it's a kid's movie, you can't really do that, but at the same time, like, his motivations weren't really solid.
Look, if we can make an R-rated Marvel Universe movie that is actually funded by Disney, Deadpool, we can talk about certain adult themes without over-sexualizing them.
Fair enough.
If we can have Deadpool doing sex on camera and blood everywhere and it still be a Disney movie, I think that Disney can get away with saying that Thanos wants to bang Death.
That's fair. Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think, like, a big problem, actually, I was talking with my friend Kevin, shout out to Kevin, by the way, for this next line, because he gave me this brilliant idea. So we only see, we don't see 33% of the acquisitions of the Infinity Stones. We see the Soul Stone be acquired. We see the Tesseract. We see the Mind Stone from Vision. And we see the Time Stone from Doctor Strange. We never see the destruction of Xandar to see the first one. Because by the time he arrives on Thor's ship, he's already got the first one. We never see what happened, and there's a throwaway line later where Thor goes, oh yeah, he's already destroyed Xandar, by the way, to the Guardians, and they're like, what? And
which, how does Thor even know that? Because Thor's been dealing with his own shit from Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's the other problem. And then the other thing we don't see is we don't see how he gets the Reality Stone from the Collector. We know that the Collector had the Reality Stone because if you saw Dark World, you know that the Asgardians gave it to the Collector for safekeeping, but we never see, by the time the Guardians get there, Thanos already has the stone, and we never see how he took the stone. If you're going to do a giant villain like this, and you're going to, you know, create this big bad who should, you know, be the be-all, end-all of the Avengers, maybe show us more than, you know, oh, by the way, he already has these. One of the things I think would have benefited from Infinity War is if they split it not into 2 movies, but into 3. Because you could have done the destruction of Xandar, and Thor's little thing, and you basically split it so that you have all the space stones done, basically, and then the second movie would be acquiring the time and the Mind Stones from Earth, and the Battle for Wakanda, and the Wipeout.
And then have the third movie be the repercussions.
Correct.
Which is what they're doing with the second movie now.
Right. I think it was jam-packed is part of the biggest part of the problem.
I mean, I saw it once, and I still can't process everything that happened. But I'm gonna make a comment about Thanos that I think you're gonna laugh at.
Okay, fair enough.
So, what was our problem with Batman v Superman? I mean, we had 1,000 of them.
I was gonna say, you're gonna have to be a little bit more specific. Is this the whole Doomsday thing?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Where the fuck did Doomsday come from in that movie? And guess what? That's the same problem with Thanos.
Well, I mean, we saw him twice before this. We saw him at the end of Avengers, and we saw his ship at the end of Thor Ragnarok. But other than that, we haven't really heard hide nor tail of Thanos yet. And the other thing is if you have the Nova Corps on Xandar, why didn't you work in a Nova? Because Nova exists. You could have had Nova be like the last survivor or something. Hell, he couldn't even have been Nova yet. You could have just had the guy who's going to become Nova be the last survivor of Xandar or whatever. Because we already know that basically all the high command of Xandar are gone because they probably didn't give the stone to Thanos, basically.
Yeah.
And they probably all were wiped out. Okay, so let's talk about women. Oh man, where should we start? Should we start with Scarlet Witch, or should we start with Gamora, or should we start with...
Start with Gamora, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the problem I had with Gamora watching this movie ties back into the bullshit with Thanos.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll start with Gamora. So Gamora... Oh my god. So Gamora got fridged. That's literally how that works. I'm a little... Well, I'm not...
A little?
I'm super pissed. Gamora. Okay, and the funniest thing about it is... Well, I wouldn't say fun... I guess funny in that it's super sad. it's funny that because Thanos literally has a line in the movie where he says, "I made you the most feared woman in the galaxy." And I'm like sitting there and going, where?
When?
Don't get me wrong, in the Guardians movie, she does a lot. Like, she's badass, she does her shit. In this movie, she was literally killed to further her father's and her boyfriend's plotline.
They made her a romantic interest from the very beginning of the movie, rather than making her the badass superhero that he claimed she was. Because they start her off with her love story with Quill, and not anything about her being a Guardian of the Galaxy or being a hero.
Mm-hmm. It's Kyle Rayner's girlfriend all over again.
Ain't it though?
Yeah. Link of the doobly-doo. Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem with this movie, is that the women are shafted a lot. I mean, a lot of people will argue, oh, well, Shuri did some stuff, she did some sciencey stuff. Okay, she was in the movie for what, like 5 minutes?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even remember Shuri being in this movie.
She was in the movie, the only reason she was in the movie was because they were gonna try to reprogram Vision. And they needed her because she's the smartest. She's the smartest person on the planet at that point in time. But she's only in the movie for like 5 minutes.
If that. I think she gets probably 60 seconds of screen time through the whole thing.
Probably. Okoye, Black Widow, and Scarlet Witch have a fight with Proxima Midnight, which is one of another problems I had, but we'll get to that later. They have an all-girl fight in the middle of the battle for Wakanda, which is awesome, except it lasts maybe 3 minutes, maybe.
I'm not one of those people who's there for long fight scenes.
Yeah,
so
I don't really care.
With that, if not for the fact that the men got to fight longer.
Yeah, and I get that, you know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has always had a representation problem until basically Black Panther. But, you know, you already have introduced Black Panther. Why do we not see more women? I mean, Captain Marvel may fix this problem because with the advent of Captain Marvel, they have announced that they are going to put Kamala Khan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Ms. Marvel, which should help because she's also Pakistani American, which will help with people of color as well. But until that happens, it's basically a sausage fest.
Yeah. Actually, it's not a sausage fest. Because...
Okay.
Let's count. Because look at how many women you have in this universe. There's almost as many female counterparts to all the men in the movie.
That's fair.
But, and I will agree with you on this, for all the female representation you have, they do not get equal screen time, they don't get equal plot purpose. They're just not as important.
Not really. Okay, so for example, Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch is an Avenger in her own right. I mean, if you saw Ultron, Hawkeye basically was like, you're an Avenger now, blah, blah, blah. Which is fine. But she spends the majority of the movie... she has a fight scene at the very beginning protecting Vision, which was great. I didn't have a problem with that.
A woman protecting a man? That's new.
Yeah, that was really nice. Then they basically relegated her to, you know, to as soon as they got the stone out of Vision, destroy it and don't participate in the fight. And when she finally does participate in the fight, Okoye has a throwaway line where she's like, and she was up there this entire time. And I want to say that we don't actually know what Scarlet Witch's powers do, really. It's never been fully explained, but we do know she's powerful enough to destroy an Infinity Stone and to hold back Thanos by herself.
Yeah.
Which makes her the strongest Avenger.
And she's just been chilling out because that's how they wrote it.
Yeah. And that pisses me off because if you're going to write somebody who has, you know, Omega level powers, I'm using the X-Men, you know, thing just as a, because that's literally the best way we got it. But if you're gonna use somebody with Omega level powers, like, you know, maybe you should show them off because, you know, now she's dead. I'm just saying. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing that upset me. You guys had Black Panther, you guys had Thor Ragnarok. You basically killed everybody from Thor Ragnarok. Although they did reveal that Valkyrie's fate is a spoiler, and so is Shuri's, which leads me to believe that they're alive.
Well, they said that anybody who didn't die on camera is still alive.
Well, they said not Jane Foster. Someone else got wiped. Howard the Duck's still alive, but...
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes. But there's some others that were wiped off camera that we didn't see, but they were like minor characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's one thing.
Like Betty Ross from The Incredible Hulk. Okay. Thor's Hulk's love interest.
People we haven't seen
in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Okay, so I don't care.
Yeah. But, but you basically wiped out everybody who was either a person of color or a woman. The only people who survived that were War Machine and Okoye and Black Widow. That's it. All the original Avengers are still standing. And Nebula, but Nebula was literally in the movie to be tortured. So I'm just saying her entire storyline was literally her being tortured by Thanos and then getting to the planet to help the Avengers and the Guardians.
I mean, that was her entire purpose of the character, period, end of story.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is like, again, Thanos has a throwaway line where he's like, oh, Nebula snuck aboard my ship. Again, if this was 3 movies, you would have been able to show that rather than tell us, and we would have gotten more... Because I would have loved to see a scene of Nebula actually sneaking onto Thanos' ship.
That's the other thing. Let's go back to Guardians 2, because what the hell does that have to do with Guardians 2 ending?
I'm just saying.
So, pretty much, Infinity War just undid everything in the last 3, 4... Marvel movies that we've all seen.
Yeah, it undoes Volume 2, it undoes Black Panther, and it undoes Thor Ragnarok, at the very least. The reason it undoes Volume 2, in my opinion, and you could disagree with me on this, is that Peter Quill only seems to care about Gamora and not any of the other Guardians. Which is super weird, because I thought the whole point of Guardians 2 was to learn that he had a family outside of, Ego, the living Ego planet. Maybe. I guess not. Whatever. Thor Ragnarok, literally, they destroyed Thor Ragnarok's ship, so... And a lot of people were like, well, he only killed, like, half his people. I don't know about you, but he literally used the purple Infinity Stone to devastate that ship, for lack of a better word. You're telling me that Valkyrie and, a couple of other people survived?
I am gonna level with you about Thor Ragnarok right now.
Fair enough.
So, and this is because I have been studying some mythos right now. Ragnarok actually means the end of all things.
Right.
So Thor Ragnarok in itself was not following its own name. It didn't end all things.
Well, in the comics, I don't know if you read the Thor Ragnarok in the comics, but basically what happens is that at the end of Thor Ragnarok, basically Loki turns into a woman, and the remaining Asgardians who escaped Ragnarok settle in somewhere in the United States.
But doesn't the Infinity War happen after that anyways in the comics?
No, Gauntlet came first. Infinity Gauntlet came first.
Ew.
Ragnarok happened only like, I don't know, 2008, 2009, something like that. Infinity Gauntlet was early 90s.
Well, we do have to keep in mind that these are... Disney has said so themselves. This is their own universe.
Yeah, and I get that, but it is based on, like, specific comics that they're borrowing from, and I get that you're gonna take liberties, and this is Marvel Universe 199999. Actually, there's a huge Wikipedia article, link in the doobly-doo, of the list of all the Marvel universes, including Marvel Zombies, Marvel 1602, the Ultimate Universe, and Earth 616, which is the main Marvel universe.
But no, my point was that let's give Disney their right here. They're claiming this is their own universe.
Yeah.
They're claiming this is their own universe, so they're going to change the order of events. So they're saying Ragnarok came before Infinity Gauntlet. Here's the thing. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok is the end of all things. We didn't see the end of all things in Ragnarok. What we saw was the end of Asgard.
Right.
And all the people of Asgard are still alive. So even that hasn't officially ended at the end of Ragnarok. So while I agree with you that the beginning of Infinity War undoes what happens in Thor Ragnarok in terms of saving the people and being a superhero story in the end, it does follow Greek or Norse mythology in that it is the end of all things. So you see the end of the Asgardians first, which is immediately followed by the end of the universe. It's not a complete death of the universe, because that's the beauty of the Infinity Stones and what Thanos wanted to do, but it does for come all to pass. For all intents and purposes, that this is really Ragnarok.
Yeah, it comes to pass that Thanos basically ended the Asgardians, except for Thor.
Yeah. So Ragnarok does happen. Now, I will say that that does conflict with true mythology, and I'm not going to get into that because I understand that this is comics, this isn't mythology.
Right.
But I can stand here and say that maybe Infinity War doesn't completely undo Ragnarok because it makes the reality of the mythos of Ragnarok real.
Right. But when you postulate in Thor Ragnarok that Asgard is not a place, it's a people, and then you decimate those people except for Thor, kinda undoes the thesis of your movie, just saying.
That is true. And I'll give you credit there.
I'm just saying, if Asgard is a place, not a place, but a people.
Yeah.
If there's only one Asgardian left, that is a person, not a people, and therefore Asgard has ceased to exist.
Is there only one Asgardian left?
That we know of. Apparently Valkyrie may still be alive, but I'm operating under the assumption if we didn't see it on camera, it didn't happen.
I mean, she is the new love interest for Thor, because that's how they wrote it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're gonna become, you know, in unfortunate biblical terms, Adam and Eve of Asgard.
I mean,
and they are the people of Asgard.
Okay, well, I'll give Marvel credit, at least it's not the Enchantress. Oh, you don't know who I'm talking about, do you?
No, I know.
Okay, yeah, so at least it wasn't the Enchantress, I'm just saying.
This is my dead stare of why you bring that up.
Because it's a terrible thing and I hate it. Oh, okay, so let's talk about the plot, okay? Plot.
There isn't one.
Well, there is a semblance of a plot. Big, strong dude runs around collecting magical stones.
Beats the shit out of people to collect magical stones.
And at the end, gets them all and kills half the universe. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because, like, other shit happens, but...
That's pretty much it, and there's no justification for any of the events that take place.
Yeah, and I'm going to state right now, a lot of people have been like, well, what if Thanos is right? I will say that you were all Nazis. That's not how we roll. We, you know, we want to preserve humanity, not destroy half of it just to, you know... finite resources and all that. Look, here's the point. The point is that Thanos literally, instead of snapping his fingers and killing half the universe, could have snapped his fingers and created way more resources. Because the Infinity Stones basically operate under the assumption that they can create something out of nothing.
Now, that I will agree with.
So, if you create something out of nothing, instead of killing half the universe, which... Doctor Strange does quote as, like, trillions of beings, and that's why he has a problem with it. Maybe create the sources, like, resources for, you know, all those people so that they can live. And, you know, a lot of people will probably point out, well, if you create more resources, you know, the 1% will just get more resources, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's a different issue.
That's a different story. If you're literally gonna write the story to be... I'm gonna kill half the universe because resources are terribly finite. You know, it would have been different if he was like, if he had said something like, I tried to create more resources with, like, the Reality Stone or whatever, and it didn't work. Like, if it didn't work, then fine. I get why you would go the route of killing people. But we're talking about Thanos. Thanos literally kills because it's fun. So, you know, and also to bang death. But he kills mostly because it's fun. I'm just saying, if you're going to present a character like that, why aren't you presenting a character that has not tried other things first? Like, there's a scene in the movie where they do Gamora's flashback to where Thanos picks up Gamora and kills half the planet. And then he tells her, you know, now kids don't go to bed hungry. They go to bed with their bellies full, and, you know, it's a prosperous planet, and there's no, like, reason, you know, there's no, like, war, blah, blah, blah. And we're basically led to believe that because of how Thanos views himself as, like, a savior of planets, I guess, he's doing the right thing. And here's the thing about villains. I'll harken back to Killmonger, because Killmonger also thought he was doing the right thing. But here's the difference. I believe Killmonger, and he also convinced the hero to open Wakanda to the world. Which is no small feat, because every king before T'Challa has kept Wakanda closed. And if you saw Black Panther, you saw how many panthers there were in that tree when he took the heart-shaped herb.
So what you're saying is that because of the humanization of Killmonger, we were able to understand his reasoning. He was able to convince
exactly
T'Challa to do what he does. Now, I will say there was an effort made at humanizing Thanos.
There was.
In the same scene you're talking about with Gamora, he's trying to be a parent figure. He's not trying to hurt a child. He's trying to be human in the best way that Thanos can be.
Right. And I understand that, but the problem is by that point, he's already murdered all of the Asgardians.
Well, so had Killmonger before we saw his backstory.
Well, that's true.
Not Asgardians, but I mean...
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But the thing is that if you're going to try to humanize a character, I sympathize with Thanos, I don't empathize with him. Whereas with Killmonger, I empathize why he's like that. He grew up in Oakland in the 90s. Not a good place. I mean, if you listen to NWA, you would know that. But, at the same time, Thanos, you know, adopted Gamora, raised her to become the most fearsome woman in the universe, which we don't see in Ragnarok, or which we don't see in Infinity War because refrigerator. Then he straight up kills her. I mean, I feel sympathy for him that he has to, you know, kill her to get the Soul Stone because, okay, so the scene is basically set up as, Red Skull is guarding the Soul Stone, which is kind of hilarious to me because Red Skull is hilarious.
Like how did Red Skull even?
Yeah, that's my point. Like what? Okay.
Like all right, I'll whatever, Disney, you can have that one.
It's like literally okay, I'll allow it. It's fine. But basically, Red Skull, you know, Thanos asks how to get the Soul Stone, and Red Skull says you have to sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice a soul for the Soul Stone because that's how it works.
A soul for a soul.
Right. And that makes sense because, you know, it's the Soul Stone. If you're going to grab it, you're going to have to give something up for it. I get it. But the reason I sympathize with Thanos is because he literally raised this woman to be the most fearsome warrior in the galaxy, and rather than actually, like, bringing... I would understand if he brought Nebula to that planet to sacrifice her or something.
He didn't love Nebula like that. He experimented on her.
Right. But it would have been like... But then it would have been... If you brought both Nebula and Gamora to that planet to get the Soul Stone, and he sacrificed Nebula, but nothing happened... Like, the things didn't go.
And then we'd see that he truly loves Gamora more.
And then he sacrificed Gamora. I think that would be a lot stronger.
But how it happened, I agree with you.
Yeah.
You don't understand how on earth he loves Gamora more. And being that I knew the backstory of Thanos and what he's doing this for, I also didn't understand the death of Gamora for this reason. Because
yeah,
if he is literally destroying an entire universe to get some out of death, I don't think Gamora is the person he loves the most.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, like, cosmic entities are weird. But anyway, but it's. I think the best way to sum up Infinity War is that it's a mess. It's a mess. It destroys the legacy of a couple of movies. It has a lackluster villain, for lack of a better word. It fridges people. And on top of everything else, most women, with the exception of the women that came from Black Panther, are relegated to either sacrificial or love interest roles rather than heroes in their own right.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people were like, but it was a fun movie. It is a fun movie, and I will agree with that. But you can still look at glaring problems of movies, of fun movies. Like, I enjoyed Infinity War, don't get me wrong. I think there are good things.
How many times did you see it?
I saw it 3 times in a week. Like, that's how much I enjoyed the movie. But there are a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see how they incorporate Captain Marvel. I will also be really interested to see how they incorporate Hawkeye and Ant-Man, because there's a throwaway line in the movie where they're like, oh yeah, Hawkeye and Ant-Man aren't here because they're under house arrest. I assume that's what they're doing because Ant-Man and the Wasp is the next movie, and they're probably going to tie it into Infinity War somehow. At least in like a post-credit scene, but it remains to be seen because it doesn't come out till July.
Well, the other thing of that is that they claim they're on a house arrest under the treaty that was signed in
The Sokovia Accords, yeah.
Yes. So, how did Ant-Man sign the Sokovia Accords? Why? What? I mean, maybe we'll see that in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but he's not officially an Avenger. I'm not sure there's any qualifications that bring him to the Sokovia.
I mean, I feel like the only reason he agreed to not be a secret Avenger is because, you know, he still cares about his daughter and he doesn't want to be, like, you know, estranged from her. Like, the thing that I can at least give Captain America credit for is that he doesn't expect others to sacrifice like he does. I mean, it's a really great... There's actually in Infinity War, there's a really great scene between once the Secret Avengers arrive at the Avengers compound and War Machine greets them. They're trying to decide what to do with Vision because he's got one of the Infinity Stones. And, you know, they talk about how, you know, Vision should sacrifice himself for the greater good. Like, you know, they could destroy the Infinity Stone, but it would destroy Vision. And Captain America says it doesn't work that way. And Vision literally turns around and says, but it worked that way for you. And that shut Cap up. Because Cap knows, like, he can't be a hypocrite about that kind of thing. But I will say that as a Secret Avenger, like, Captain America doesn't have to worry about other people, per se. The only people he really cares about are either dead, as in the case of Peggy Carter, who died during Civil War, or they're his boyfriend. That's it. There's no one else.
Calling him out like that, though.
Okay, listen. I mean, they may not be boning, but they're almost there. They're almost there. They're almost there. I mean, did you see the fuck eyes that Bucky gave Cap when he got to Wakanda?
I mean, everything is fuck eyes between them, but,
I mean, we all saw that scene in Civil War where he's like, ugh, with his, like, abs. Apparently he wanted to do it shirtless, but Disney wouldn't let him. I'm so mad at Disney for that.
If you ever need a reason to hate Disney, other than, you know, all the other stuff, pick that.
Yeah, that's literally the only reason I don't like Disney right now, is because they wouldn't let Captain America be shirtless for that one scene that would have totally benefited from him being shirtless.
Talk about a lot of other reasons you could hate Disney.
Well, that is also true,
yeah.
But I think we've covered pretty much everything, unless you have any closing thoughts.
No. I don't have a knowledge of the Marvel Universe the way you do.
Yeah, she's more DC
I'm
than...
much more of a DC fan.
Yeah.
I could tell you up, down, sideways of the Teen Titans and all of their shit. So that is my life. But I don't have the knowledge of Marvel that you do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can see it from the cinematic point and agree with you on those points. But as far as what fits the comic, and again, we have to step aside from the comics a little bit because Disney's their own universe. I don't have necessarily the same qualms.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this, was because, you know, I know that you're only coming in from it from, like, a cinematic standpoint, whereas, you know, I have more comics knowledge.
Well, cinematic and comics physics.
Right, comics physics. I will say, the next time we meet up, we should just do one on Batman v Superman.
Oh! Oh, can we please?
I have...
That hurt me.
There is a 3-hour review of Batman v Superman by Movie Bob that I will probably rewatch before we do that. Because
I will rewatch the movie and then probably burn my entire pop collection of Batman v Superman because I hate the fact that I bought them all. But I love them anyways. But you know, Wonder Woman.
I mean, that's...
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Wonder Woman.
That's literally the only good thing about that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably going to be a thing. I'm about to move to Minnesota, so after this video comes out, I'm probably not going to do a video for a while, just because I got to get settled. But once I start Superhero Rundown back up again, I will, you know, do a regular review. This was more of a theoretical discussion about why Infinity War is a gosh darn mess. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you, you know, doing that. And we'd show you a puppy, but I think she's asleep on the couch.
Come here, puppy.
Puppy!
Hello.
Look at that. We didn't even have to stop the camera.
Hi.
We got a puppy. It's a puppy. Look at the puppy. It's a puppy. It's so good. It's a puppy. It is the purest thing in this world. Because look at it. Look at her. She's amazing. She's amazing. And she will never have to deal with the repercussions of Infinity War because that was a hot mess. Puppy. And I will see you when I am in Minnesota. You probably won't see her until we do Batman v Superman.
Yeah, which if you're in Minnesota might happen via Skype, but you know, it's fine.
Or if you come to Minnesota, it might happen via Minnesota.
That's a possibility, but you know.
We'll catch you later.
Yeah.